Thank you for tuning in to another episode of my Veterans to Success podcast. You probably know by now, my mission is to help 1 million veterans and entrepreneur business owners achieve the dreams, goals, and aspirations they deserve. That is why I created the Veterans to Success podcast, because I get to interview guys, men and women, who want to share their fascinating stories with you about their time before, during and after their time in the military, so you can benefit and overcome your challenges. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be mesmerized, astounded, and entertained. Hello and welcome to another podcast edition, and I'm really excited today because I have got Brian MacRitchie with me. Right, and as you know from the podcast, we unleash the actual expertise of each podcast guest. So without further ado, we're just going to dive in. Hello, Brian. Welcome to today's podcast.
Hello, Joe, and hello, everybody. How are you doing?
Fantastic, thank you. And you're looking good and healthy. So
thank you.
We'll crack straight on then, shall we?
Happy New Year.
So, I mean, we've had some good discussions building up to this podcast, and I found out an awful lot about you. And what I want to do during this conversation is go through the usual format, which you know of. And it's about looking at what happened to you before the military, what was your situation, then when you joined, and now after the military and how you've made a success. So, first of all, tell me about your life before the military.
I was at school. So I joined straight from school. I was a snotty-nosed little teenager who, I was quite restless, if I'm honest, but I had a home life that I wanted to get away from it, to be fair. You know, I wasn't abused or any of that, but I'm quite a strict father, and, I wanted to get away from that, and I wanted to be an engineer, to be fair, and I didn't have the options as some people have of going to university and, all that sort of good stuff. So, I ended up in the careers office in Aberdeen, and I went through the Navy bit. So I saw the submarine service and went, wow, that's amazing. At the time, you couldn't join the submarine service straight away. You went into general service, skimmers, as they're known for any Navy guys on this. And we, I went through that way. So I joined as a weapons engineer, as it was known in the day. And I went through the military that way. 17 and a half, had no idea about life. I couldn't say boo to a goose. And, I joined the military basically. And within 8 weeks of training at Raleigh, I was, put through the paces.
Right, so thank you, Brian. That's interesting, because what I want to do as well for those who are listening, because we've got mixed age groups that listen to this podcast. And so you didn't come from what we would maybe class as a privileged background. By the sounds of it, it wasn't. Life was tough. So just tell me you can go into as much or as little detail about that as you want to. I just want to get a handle on, because as we go through your career, we'll see that you're very successful now, and it's often it often makes me chuckle when people say, "Oh, you're really lucky, you are," and actually, and they don't know the background. So tell me.
You're right. Yeah. I've actually had people, family, and also I've had friends and people that aren't so friends, oh, you're lucky, you're in the military, you just got it all given to you. I can guarantee you that is not the case. And for most people watching this, it's not a case of sit back and it's given to you on a silver spoon. I worked my ass off in the military and when I came out. And I find that I read a lot of CVs, and we'll probably come to that later. And a lot of military guys are absolutely crap at selling themselves, and they can, in some cases, write a CV that will end up at the bottom of the pile. And I can see right through that, and it's good to have those kind of guys, ex-military people in positions in oil companies as I am, and things like that. They can see through that and go, that CV is going to the top, you know. So it certainly wasn't handed to me on a plate. And you know, but we'll get to that. I'm sure.
So tell me, just going back, and I don't want it to be too painful for you, but going back, you mentioned that your dad was a bit of a disciplinarian, right? So it was strict. So, and I get the gist that you might not have been a high flyer in school, right?
I was okay. I wouldn't say, and I think if I'd had a home life that was, shall we say, you know, helped me through that, I probably would have done okay, to be fair. But I must admit, at 16, 17, when I was doing my O-levels, as it was for the older people in the room, I probably would have done okay. I wouldn't say, a bit like Billy Connolly, you know, he was told when he was a child he was stupid, thick, and he wasn't, you know, and that's the kind of upbringing I had. You know, my father was an ex RSM in the army, and in the days where it was, you know, and I think he thought he was still in the army when he left, and treated us like that. So it was very, you know, you're stupid, you'll never make anything, and I believed that, you know. And as a young 16, 17-year-old, I had zero self-esteem, and I believed I was stupid, you know. And I'll be brutally honest, the Navy, any armed forces, not just the Navy, the senior service, just saying. You know,
Hey,
something
hey,
mate.
mate.
You're gonna get hate mail in a minute, aren't you? You know?
I was just about to say, you know, when you were stupid, people, some of my mates might have said when you joined the
it comes out every now and then, the stupidity. So you know, I joined the Navy because I wanted to be an engineer, and you know, they were offering a quicker, at the time I could get into the Navy quicker, and it just seemed like the path would have flown quicker. To be fair, looking back, it was probably no quicker, but I chose the Navy at the time, and it was one of two reasons. It was to get an education, because I felt that I was never going to get, you know, mummy and daddy helping me out. It was never going to happen. So from 17 and a half, I kind of made a big transition in my life, pretty scary. And I thought to myself, I'm on my own now, and I am not going to fail at anything, or it will be me that has to pick up the pieces. Mummy and daddy won't come and help me. So I kind of made that click in my head. I got my smattering of O-levels, a couple of hires, or A-levels as they are in England, and managed to use that to pass the entrance exam to the Navy for an engineer. And I think I scraped through. And I remember there was a chief petty officer going, well, you know, you've scraped through, mate, but you're going to have to work hard when you get in there. And that was red rag to a bull. And I did, to be fair. Failure was not going to be an option. I didn't want to go back home. And, you know, and that was that. And I joined up.
Right, fantastic. So here we are now. You're training. And where did you train at again?
So the Navy do their initial basic training at Raleigh, HMS Raleigh, which is
HMS Raleigh, yeah.
And then from there, it's 8 weeks of getting rid of the dross standard, you know, people that aren't going to mold, you know. I don't know what it's like now. I bet it's not what I went through, but let's be honest. You know, it was tough, you know, and it would have been for the RAF, and it would have been for the Army at those days as well, the Marines. It was tough, 8 weeks, and we got rid of half the class, to be honest. I wasn't going to be one of those halves, people going back on the train, and you know, I went for it. And at the end of 8 weeks, 9 weeks, you know, I could just about fire a gun. A lot of Army, Marines, and RAF regiment guys will be laughing at me because Navy with a gun? Are you kidding? Yeah, the Royal Navy can fire a gun, amazingly enough. But then we have the Marines for that. They do that properly and well. Don't give a gun an SA-80 to a flipping submariner. Not going to happen. It's not going to end well. So
it's not the best place to fire a weapon anyway.
No. Well, you know, it was the SLR when I first joined. What a machine that was. At least it didn't jam. So we that was that. Out of 8 weeks, I could march, I could fire a gun, and I knew a bit about the Navy. And then I went to HMS Collingwood, which is in Fareham in Hampshire, and that is, as it is today, the Navy's engineering school for electrical, electronics, mechanical, etc., etc. So, and then I went on that was pretty intense, and I went from not knowing anything about electrical engineering to pretty much doing okay at it, actually, at the end. And again, it's not like kids nowadays who maybe go to university or go to college, where I think I'll skip class today, or I think I'll go to that lecture, but I won't go to that one. No, you went to every lecture, and they wanted the best, so it was pretty good. And I think from there, we started in the path of leadership and management, where put that rock over there. You've got a timekeeper. You've got this guy. And you're introduced to leadership and management very early in the military. And if you do that in Civvy Street, that ain't happening for years unless you go into a management position. But in the military, right from the start, you're put in leadership and management positions. Get the best out of a team, and it's
exactly
that ethos is right from the beginning, and that is something that veterans should cherish. And it's something I see in people I interview who are ex-military, be it any of the branches, coming through. I work for the oil industry, so anybody coming into the oil industry, if I see an ex-Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine, anything like that, with the suitable skills that are required for that job, I'll make sure they get an interview. And because the leadership and the determination to do the job and get things done is there.
I mean, similarly in the Royal Engineers, I went to the Royal School of Military Engineering in Brompton, which is the equivalent of HMS Collingwood.
Really.
Where all the trade training's taught.
Yeah.
Architects, surveyors to painters and decorators.
Yeah.
Because we can go in and we can rebuild the whole village if we need it.
Yeah. So the Navy can destroy it with a Tomahawk missile. It's
yeah, you could probably destroy it quicker than we can build it, and you wouldn't be on our Christmas card list either for doing that.
Good point. Yeah. Let's not do that. Yeah. So absolutely.
So right. So you've gone through the 8 weeks. Half of the intake were gone. Then you went to Collingwood, learnt about electrical engineering. So what happened then? When did you get on a sub? So
I as part of my training, you don't join. I mean, nowadays you can go into the careers office and go, I want to be in the submarine service, and I find that strange because any 17-year-old joining the Navy has only seen submarines on the films. It's a very secretive organisation, the submarine service. So when you go to sea, it's not talked about. Nobody gets to know where you're going. It's very secretive. The general public, when I speak to people, oh, we've got submarines. Oh, right. What, 1, 2, are they at sea? Oh, yes, they're at sea. All right. Believe me. And doing all sorts, be it Britain's nuclear deterrent, which has been going since the 60s constantly, to, looking after our interests abroad, or being generally sneaky sly buggers. Submarines are, used and abused there. So in my day, you joined general service. So you joined surface ships regardless. And you get in a massive, as an engineer, you get a big task book about the size of Britannia's encyclopedia. And you've basically got to learn on the job while you're at sea, different sections from radars to sonars to general electrical engineering, and be part of the ship's company. And so you join as a trainee, really. So I joined aircraft carriers. And I served some time on Illustrious, Invincible. They're all scrapped now. They're made into razor blades, which is quite sad. It shows my age. So I did my training on aircraft carriers, and I was over a few years, to be fair, on and off. And I got promoted to leading hand, Killick, as it's known, which is the same as our corporal. So that happened, and then that allowed me to go back to Collingwood and do my HND in electrics and electronics engineering, which was a 3-year course. Again, not picking what you want to do, what courses you want to go to, what classes. Believe me, that was an intense 3 years, and pretty much going into advanced electronics. And I had a couple of friends by then, amazingly, who were in the submarine service. And I used to get a little look down a submarine, and, and I'll be brutally honest, I looked at these guys, and in no disrespect to the general service guys, honestly, a totally professional organisation. The Navy is, as is our armed forces. You don't think it at the time when you're in the armed forces, but when you leave and you come into Civvy Street, you look back and you go, do you know what? It wasn't that bad. These guys know their stuff. And I joined a submarine. I had these friends in the submarine service, and I got to look down a submarine, and I went, oh my God. And these guys were on a pedestal far, just a very professional outlook. Everybody was in it together, and I absolutely love the team ethos of being a submariner. Everybody was in it together. When you go to sea in a submarine, there is one mission and one mission only. Everybody looks out for each other. Everybody knows what each other's doing. Everybody knows the submarine intimately, because you do a lot of courses on it. And you had one mission, and that was to do whatever you're sent away to do and come back safely and go and see your family. And it was a very, very professional organization. And some may laugh and go, is it hell? You know, it is. It really is. And, you work on equipment that is probably equal to the space program in what it does and the technology that you work on it. So I saw that and just kind of fell in love with it and applied straight away. And I went through a few interviews and medicals and was probed and all that. And I was accepted into the fun, you know. And it was a whirlwind. Little did I know, I didn't just get to go down a submarine and get cracking. It was a good year of training. You know, you do your submarine training where you learn hydraulics, electrics, pneumatics, everything about submarines in general, to reactors, to weapon systems, to everything. And submariners know that submarine pretty much inside out. And by God, you are tested on it through a thing called your BSQ, or Basic Submarine Qualification course. And so once you pass that, you then go down a submarine, and then it all starts again. They don't care you've done the course. You're seen by the crew as a trainee, and you're no use to me until you're qualified. So you go to sea, and you're pretty much in the deep end, if you pardon the pun. And it's all about getting you through your BSQ qualification, your submarine qualification. Yeah. To earn your dolphins, you get your dolphins on your thing. That's sacred to submariners.
So, because I mean, it's not as if when you're hundreds or thousands of miles out in the sea and something goes wrong, you're not going to get on the phone and call the AA or the RAC.
That's exactly right. And submariners are looked at, and I find it strange you can join straight away, but then hey, that's the way it is these days. But you're kind of looking for people that are pretty self-sufficient. You know, you go to sea now, you dive, and sometimes you are not surfacing at all, even coming to periscope depth for months. And I'm talking, I did 4 and a bit months once at sea, dived. People don't believe that. They go, piss off, no chance, you know? Yeah. And they still do today. We go to sea, dive, and you will not surface for 4 months. It is, you know, and that's getting longer as our submarines are getting older and replacements are being built.
So how does that muck about with your psyche when you're down there? And especially, you know, for those who are pads, married with kids.
Yeah, it's a big strain. And you know, I've talked to Marine. I've got friends in the Marines. I've got friends in the Army. And you know, these guys go to Afghanistan and are on the front line, and I've gone through unimaginable problems. But a lot of them turn around and go, no, you're the crazy guys. You go to see in a tin box full of pneumatics, hydraulics, weapon systems, and a reactor, and dive the thing, you know. And you kind of, at the time, you look back and you go, I don't think about it at that time, but I look back and I go, flipping hell, I used to sleep. My bunk was next to one of the missile tubes, you know. I had a nuclear missile a meter away from my head when I'm sleeping, and you don't think about it at the time. And a reactor about 100 meters away, you know.
I mean,
you don't think about it.
No, and I served with bomb disposal, and I look at you submariners, and I just think,
yeah,
interesting.
Crazy.
Yeah,
it's a big bomb. You know, you guys would try and defuse the bomb and walk away from it. No, we live on a bomb. It's just stupid. But you know, not to decry away from that, and to answer your question, I think it's you go to sea, and I think, to be honest, it's a leap of faith, because you'll either take to it or you won't. And I think my first ever patrol I went to on a submarine, we dived, and I was okay with it, to be fair. You'll be surprised what the human body gets used to. And that comes from guys that have gone to Afghanistan, frontline stuff, even our SAS, SPS guys who go away in a very secretive organization and may sit watching people for weeks and weeks in a trench or it's funny. You look back and you go, I don't know how I did that, but you just get on with it. And that's the ethos of the armed forces, guys. And that comes out in the civvy street when you leave. You get these guys. If I get a CV or I hire someone who's ex-armed forces, they've always got this can-do attitude, and if the shit hits the fan, they don't start going, it's like, I've been scared for my life before, and they just get on with it. There's no, not everybody's the same, but when there's a problem, they don't panic, hair on fire and make it a bigger problem, And one thing I like about armed forces guys as well, and I include myself, is admitting it when you're wrong. If someone goes wrong, and I say this to my guys who are civilians, and I've got a couple of ex-armed forces guys working for me, and I didn't have to tell them this, but my civilian guys that work for me, I say, if there's an F-up, come upstairs and admit it, talk to me about it, and we'll get the situation fixed before it becomes a problem. Don't hide anything. Don't go, I'm not going to tell Brian I fucked up here, admit, and they come and say, Brian, I've made a right mistake here, and this is the consequences, and then we deal with it, get on with it. There's no bollockins, well, there is something, but depending if it's stupidity, but no, but it's about dealing with the situation, getting it done, and listen, you learn from your mistakes. Lessons learned at the end of a project, whatever that project may be, is invaluable, and the armed forces do that a lot. We used to do it a lot in the submarine service. If something went wrong when we were at sea, we would have a talk about it afterwards, and it wasn't Jenkins over there effed up. It was him that did it. We'd have a talk and we say, we screwed up because it's a team. We didn't do this. We didn't follow that procedure. We did this instead. And what we're going to do about it in the future. And then, a bit of training maybe needed, a bit of self-discipline or change to a procedure. And I've taken that ethos into Civilian Street. If we fuck up, talk about it.
And that's very interesting, because it's like when we're building when we were building a bridge. Like if it's a 4-man lift and someone's not lifting their shoulder away, you know about it because you're back.
You know about it, yeah.
Hurting.
You go, come on.
There's nowhere to hide or minefields or anything. It's about teamwork, and then you identify what's gone wrong, how you can improve better next time. And it's not like some of this talk now in politics or public sector where they say lessons will be learned, and in a few years they can make the same mistake, because in the game of the military and now in what we do as professionals, you got to learn, because if you don't, you sink, don't you?
Been there. And I've got no problem. I've got no problem today standing in front of an audience of, say, 200 people, for example, and doing a lecture on something, blah, blah, blah. The 17-year-old in me, I couldn't say hello to a guy next to me. And that 22 years in the Navy, especially in the submarine service, cramming each other in a big tin can and just getting on with it, kicked that out of me very quickly, to be fair. And I am the person I am now because of that. I don't think I'd have the confidence. I don't think I'd have the can-do attitude, the willingness to crack on and do something right, and support people as well. I'm a mental health first aider at my work, because it's so important, and I'm not talking about the airy-fairy. I'm not feeling very good today, the Facebook general. I've had people with, proper serious problems, and I've seen that before in the military anyway, and it's really, I take it seriously, and I take that seriously as well. So it's, and I've taken a lot from the military, and it's not, the Civvy Street hasn't trained me in any of that. That's been the military that's done that.
And it's interesting, because I too have studied the mental first aid course a lot, and qualified, and I think it's essential to understand that now in the game, because we used to do that automatically in the military anyway, didn't we? And we didn't give it didn't give it the name, the title of that, but we didn't. We just gone with it, and talked. And the good thing about I think the good thing about the military guys is if they are having problems. I'm part of a charity, really as well, and you'll be surprised. Military guys will have a problem. In my day, it used to. I'm not talking about it. We're men, but I think you're finding a lot of people are talking an awful lot more, and there's nothing wrong with that. You've got to talk about it, and if you can talk about it with another military friend and go, I was in Afghanistan and this happened and that happened, and I've not been able to talk about it. If you can get a military guy, an ex-military guy who's been in something similar to talk with, it does its weight in gold. Bottling it up, drinking and taking drugs is happens because of that. And but you've got to talk. It sounds like a cliche, but if you can talk to anybody, even for 5 minutes, you'll be surprised what you get out of it.
Do you like coffee? A lot of people tend to spend money on expensive coffees from outlets without even thinking about it. Well, for the price of just 2 coffees per month, you can gain access to valuable business and life resources gained from my over 37 years in business and 15 years in the military. These world-class resources are designed to help you achieve the goals, dreams, and aspirations you deserve. So visit joeteams.com now to find out more. That's JOETEAMS.com to find out more.
Well, I remember we had this agreement in my section, like if you share a problem, it's not a problem anymore because everyone knows, and they'll help you, and it's not everyone knows and they'll take the mick out of you. Although that may have gone on to a little bit, but I mean, by and large, it was so right. Okay, mate, what's the problem? Here we go. Here's some solutions, and let's get around.
Yeah. Even personal. I mean, you take a bunch of blokes and women now are serving on the front line. Women are at submarines now. They're flying aircraft. You know, that was very, 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 very rare when I was young. But everybody's together now, and it's, you know, I mean, I've been at sea in a submarine, and guys are having problems at home, you know, and you know, and you just talk about it, you know, and you know, one guy, he was so pissed off, and we couldn't figure out why. And we went, what's wrong with you? He'd had a message from his wife while he was at sea on a submarine. Because we can get little, they're called family grams, we can get little, some words back from your loved ones. You can't send anything back because you don't transmit anything on a submarine for obvious reasons. And he was so pissed off, and we were all quite genuinely worried about him. And we're saying, "You okay, mate?" And he went, "My wife's bought a flipping kitchen, and there's nothing I can do about it." You know, so some people, and we had guys whose family member had died while they were at sea, and submarines don't surface for that. They don't go back. You don't get floated. You don't get any of that. And when you're on operation, that's it. You know, off you go, and you know, you just got to deal with it. It's
and that's led me into a question, because going back to, oh, you're really lucky you are, Brian. I mean, you got it all.
Yeah.
You were born with a silver spoon in your mouth. Everything.
I didn't work at all. Just got given to me.
So on that same theme, then in the Navy, without breaching any confidentiality or Official Secrets Act,
I'll do 22
what
years.
What were some of the hurry moments where you thought, this? Oh,
yeah. I'll I don't know where to begin. I've had a couple. Going to sea on a submarine is it's a big weapons platform with nuclear missiles in it, spearfish torpedoes, which have some horrendous fuels and explosives in them. It's all wrapped around in lots of water, pressure, pneumatic systems, hydraulic systems, high voltage electrical systems. And then just to top it off, if you don't think that's dangerous enough, there's a reactor pretty much back center of the vessel that could power a small town like, say, Fareham in Hampshire, or you know, up here somewhere smallish. It could power that, no problem, you know. So you put all that together and you dive this thing under the water and bugger off and do sneaky stuff. It's you know, at the time you don't kind of think about it, you know. And I saw a video once where they dropped a spearfish torpedo from a massive crane to blow it up, to show you this thing. And they did the same with a Trident missile 3rd stage rocket motor. They dropped it just to show you, you know, and this thing blew up and took the camera and about, you know, a mile of land with it, you know. And then the instructor, I always remember starting, goes, "And you've got them on your submarine," with a big smile on his face. And we're just like, Jesus. And, you know, and you just don't think about it. And obviously a very complicated machine is a submarine. Probably, you know, we're building HMS Dreadnought as I speak. When we built the Vanguard and the Astute class submarines, you know, the biggest engineering projects going on in Britain at the moment is the Dreadnought system. It outdwarfs everything. It's brought work. It's got technological, just unbelievable things. We're working closely with Americans to develop the submarine. And, you know, you put all that together and there's a failure at sea when you're under the water, you've got pretty much seconds to make decisions. And that is what the training, that year's training when I was talking about, and then doing your basic submarine qualification is all about. Even the steward at the front of the submarine, up to the captain himself, all need to know that submarine intimately. So if the steward, young guy who's walking back aft near the engine room and there's a fire, flood, famine, whatever, a massive problem, that guy has to know, right, I've done my basic qualification here. I know what valve to turn or to try and help people. Everybody's in it together. And I've gone to sea before, and we've had the reactors do a thing called a scram, and that's any reactor, civil reactor, a nuclear reactor on a ship, submarine, whatever. They can be quite sensitive, and if something isn't right, they'll do a thing called a scram, and they'll shut down. And the reactor gives us power, it gives us propulsion, all that stuff. That shuts down. The engine's going to stop, and then we're on. We've got to try and get the submarine at a safe position to get it up to periscope depth, get a mast out and switch on the diesels and try and charge up batteries and get the reactor restarted and then slink off again. So I remember once, it was probably the first thing that's ever happened to me on a submarine. I thought, oh, these are quite safe, And I remember we had a reactor scram, but we were ballast wrong. And, and it's important that submarine is ballasted properly. So it's neutrally buoyant. It's not going up and it's not going down when you're in operation. And you'll hit seawater, salt bits, and the submarine will, move about. You've got to ballast the submarine to make sure it's and that's the ship controller's job. He gets a hard life. And so, it's all about that. And we had a scram, the engine shut down, everything shut down. And when that happens, the lights go off, you're switching off all the lights, you're trying to relieve the electrical system. And it was taking an awful long time for things to happen. Already the submarine's going back like that. It's kind of, you could tell the ballast was, and it's going back. And the ship controller just, do this, do that, pump water there, it's all to try and get it up. And I was quite a young submariner at the time, probably I think it was my first patrol. And we're in darkness and just some lighting on. And I remember turning my torch that I had at the time to my warrant officer. This guy had been in submarines for years, big beard, knew it all. And he looked genuinely frightened. And as soon as I saw his face in that moment, I knew that this was a bigger problem than I thought. And I was like, oh, well, the lights are off, everything's fine. And I looked around, he looked genuinely scared. This guy had been in 20 odd years, was scared. And, we were sinking a little bit, to be fair. And when I saw his face, I knew this was a big problem. And suddenly I took it far more seriously than I thought. And, we were all, suddenly it was all hands to the pump. Literally, everybody was, doing their bit. And we came out of that, but it just shows you that setups on a submarine, when they're wrong, things go wrong quickly. And I've heard of submarines in other navies, American navies, that have got themselves into a big problem when the reactor scrams and suddenly the ballast's all wrong and the submarine starts going down quickly. And an attack submarine, or HMS Astutes, they're a lot lighter. So when you have a scram, there is a chance to get submarine negatively buoyanting up a little bit quicker. On a Trident submarine, these are massive beasts. They sink. So it's a lot quicker. I remember that. That was my first scary moment.
And for those, including me, but I've got an idea because I'm engineering. I was in the engineers. So for those who've not been a submariner, the thing with when the submarine's going along and the officer in charge of the ballast is the engineer officer is moving the ballast around, because the temperature of the sea changes as well, so that has an effect.
Salt water as well, yeah.
Salt water. What would have happened, or what could have happened, had that not been corrected in time on that night? Well, a big fella with 20 odd years looked frightened. What was could have happened?
To be honest, we train for that. We have, if you go to Faslane Naval Base, there's simulators for everything. Simulators for the reactor, simulators for the vessel itself, for ship controllers. I've gone through those courses, and it is realistic and scary when they do it. And you train and train and train. It's almost like a pilot. They train for absolutely every circumstance. And that's why when you're on an aircraft and they go, hello, Captain speaking, yes, we've got a bit of a problem with the engine. He doesn't sound scared. He's done this hundreds of times in the simulator. Or I'm sitting there like going, shit. And we train, and then train again, and then train, and then we're tested on it. Tested. You go to sea, and then you have 3-4 months of, this submarine's pretty reliable. Whereas, you're not doing that. You don't end up doing, it doesn't happen. It's 90% boredom, 10% scariness sometimes, And I used to sit on the ship control panel, which is, you're in charge of making sure that the submarine's buoyant, the ballast, it's okay, everything's in place, and you're always scanning the thing. And I've got a book of EOPs, emergency operating procedures. So if something goes wrong, you get to the page and you go through the procedure. And I used to just read them What if this happened? What if this happened? What am I going to do? And you had to keep yourself going. And I think it's the professionalism of the guys, you know, even this guy's looking scared, sitting in ship controller that nothing happened. And eventually there's never been, and I'm touching wood a lot here, a big accident on a British submarine to date. You know, there has been in the early 60s, 70s. There's a couple of stories you'll hear, but certainly I think our safety record has gone up massively. It's gone through the roof. Our new submarines are designed with a bit more automation in mind. So, you know, the on a submarine you push the joysticks, the foreplanes and afterplanes, and it's all hydraulic. You can feel the movement. If you're going in a Astute class submarine now, it's all little clicky joysticks like on an Airbus aircraft. So that's a massive step change. A lot of submariners like, oh, I don't feel any, you know. So the training got us out of that. The guys did their job, but the worst case that could have happened, especially on a Trident submarine, a big, heavy beast of a thing, is the submarine starts to do that. You don't get the ballast strike. The reactor hasn't come online. You can't get to periscope depth, and it will sink. We have a number of methods of getting out of that. Your last ditch attempt is emergency ballast, where you pull these handles, and there's a huge tanks of air that will just force into the ballast tanks and get you up in an emergency. That's your last ditch attempt, because you get one attempt at doing that before it all has to charge up again. It can take a few hours to days to charge and then back up again. So when you hit that handles, the oh shit handles, you've got to be certain you've tried everything else, because you get one chance. And
then you're vulnerable then as well when
and you'll get to a stage where somebody will just keep going and you'll hit crush depth, which I can't even tell you what that is, very secret, but you'll hit crush depth and you're all dead. You wouldn't know anything about it. And I think a lot of people go, oh, you're on a submarine in a tin can. If you're an army, RAF regiment, if you're in the Marines and you're in Afghanistan, you have different worries. On a submarine, you have other different worries. And they're slightly different. I think in Afghanistan, if you get shot, it can maim you. You can have a horrible death. You can, on a submarine, it wouldn't be, you wouldn't know anything about it. It would be, you'd know about it on the way down.
Yeah, just be that. Yeah.
And it, you know, and we've, thank God, not had that happen, because the training the guys get is second on, and you're trained. And it's, you know, when it happened, that reactor scram that we had, the guys just went in automatic. They're all and we were out of it. But I remember looking at it, this warrant officer, and he was scared, and I'm thinking, oh my God, you know. So that was my first little scare.
Well, thank you, and I'm sure
I've had fires at sea. I've had, you know, and that's the worst thing with a submarine, a fire at sea as well. And I've had a couple of them, you know, and everybody just gets on with it. It's, you know,
and it's where you just bring in the immediate action drill, because as we've been talking, it's amazing. as we've been talking, I've been thinking about immediate action drill for nuclear biological warfare. How you get your respirator on 9 seconds, or you're done. Blockage on your weapon. So there's lots. The military really does teach you what to do in the face of an emergency.
And you hear that crappy cliche you see in movies. Yeah, the training just took over, you know. But it kind of does. And, you know, I've been sitting on the toilet, and for some reason, every time there's a problem, I've been on the toilet at the time, and you're like, shit, literally, get out, you know, and your mask's on, and you're fire, you know. And,
so the shit has literally
you know, I could come up with moving people out the way to get down the corridor, you know. You know, Christ Almighty, I've had guys jumping out of bed butt naked, you know, and you're like, oh Jesus, put it away, you know, get their stuff on and off you go, you know.
So then after you recover from that shot, you get on with
I've got PTSD because of that. Some fun, you know, but yeah.
So we did touch on it before, and you know, when you're looking at CVs now of guys who have just left the military, and you're thinking that's not written in the best way, but the fact is, I know that they've got lots of skills that they can bring to the table.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot of veterans out there in high-ranking jobs in Civvy Street, and it's great that is. We need more, because it's you know, I can see through the, you know, I've had CVs to say I was in the REME and I was in a SCCP, or lots of acronyms. I served on HMS. Civilians don't care. In fact, they don't even know what that means. And they'll just go, I don't know what that means. This could have been the most highly qualified guy for your job. And TV's gone. And that happens too much. And it's, I can see through that,
Exactly. And I mean, I've been out a little bit longer than you. So I know back when I got out, there was no, for instance, how would I translate Royal Engineer Sergeant served with bomb EOD, bomb disposal, out to someone in civvy street? Well, we've got no bombs in our job. But the fact is that there's lots of stuff that can be associated.
Terrible skills, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So
there's lots.
And back in your day, when you got out 12 years ago, it probably was still not recognised as the skill. So what problems did you face? What challenges when you left the military?
Yeah, and I'm going to be honest, sometimes veterans or guys leaving the armed forces are some of them go, I'll be honest, when you leave, when your last year, there's a lot more given to you now. You get I don't even know what they're called these days, LCAS credits. You get credits to do courses, resettlement, which is a year before, and I got that. I got the resettlement, I'm going to be honest, and my 17-year-old came back out in me again, and I went, I am going to take this for everything I can. And what I instantly recognized that in Civvy Street, now I had some guys who had left the Navy maybe years before and were in Civvy Street, so were able to get me advice. So my first advice is, if you've got any Civvy friends, who have maybe hopefully served in the forces and who have left prior, get their advice on what they're looking for. And I did that. And, for an electrical engineer, for example, if there's any electrical engineers among you out there, try and get courses in your resettlement that translate what you have into Civvy speak. An example for anybody that's an electrical engineer, REME guys will know this, and some of the Navy engineers will know this, and the RAF engineers will know this, is that an electrical engineer in Civvy Street needs a qualification called 18th edition, BS 7671, sometimes I think called COMPEX, which is working on explosive environment stuff. You do that in the military, but you haven't got the civilian piece of paper, So get these courses in. A lot of for the engineers in the room, again, I'm being biased to electrical, I'm afraid, but there's a thing called a PLC, a programmable logic controller. That is the future. That is used a lot in the oil industry, a lot in, and it's an automation system. Used for safety, used for programming, etc. And it runs car plants, it runs a lot of equipment on oil and gas industry stuff. And although you'll run, maintain, and engineer things on a submarine or an aircraft or a tank that are far more complicated than that, you haven't got the bit of paper that says I can do PLCs, and that's what they're looking for. So although you've worked on equipment far more advanced than you can imagine, it hasn't translated to Civvy Street. So so I would advise get some PLC courses as well, and things like that. I went and did, I got a free Prince 2 project management course when I was in the Navy. They were just giving them away for some reason. I don't know why. Anybody want to go on Prince 2? And I went, I have no idea what that is, but I'll go and do it. And what I realized very quickly is it was project management. And a lot of military guys make fantastic project managers. So if you're sitting there twiddling your thumbs in your last year of military service going, what can I do? I can fire a gun and I can shoot someone at 100 meters, but I don't have any other skills. You do. You flipping do. You have got leadership and management skills. You have got a can-do attitude. You have got a thrive to get things done. And that is worth its weight in gold. Go out and get a project management course, Prince 2, something like that. NEBOSH, which is health and safety. And what I've found is guys that think they don't have any qualifications become, I know loads of army guys, Navy guys, I know some Marines that have come out thinking, well, I haven't got any skills, and gone and done project management courses, and ex-military guys project manage jobs in Civvy Street.
Well, I remember in the engineers, we were on the field sergeant's course, where we would go and recce a bridge for a demolition, right? So we'd have to work out the explosives, and also rations and everything. Then we'd have to write an engineering report. That's
and you don't think anything of it. You just do it. Oh, that's what the book of reference says. I better do that, you know.
And I mean, that goes through equipment, rations, stores, what you need, and DEMS calculations and all sorts. Yeah, so it's interesting. So, I mean, because it was dead easy for you getting out of the Navy into CVC. Oh, and you didn't have any problems, did you?
No, none whatsoever.
So what sort of emotional things went on in your head?
I'm not sure what it's like now, and I don't think it's as bad. But the first thing that happens, I was on my last few weeks of my service, and I always remember this. And you go to the US. A lot of ex-military guys or military guys have worked with our US partners. We certainly did in the Trident program, and I went over to the US a lot. And obviously, you can see that their veterans are treated like royalty. Their veterans are allowed to come on to any naval base, to the PX bases, and do their shopping almost tax-free. You know, they are respected highly. And I am absolutely glad that we are moving in that direction. We are not there yet, nowhere near, but we are moving in the right direction. There's a veteran's ID card coming out. I haven't got it yet because my name's M, and I'm way last in the queue. But,
I'm me. I'm me.
Yeah, so it's coming, and it's good that that is starting to be recognised now. I have a discount card, and I go to Costa and things like Pizza Hut, things like that, and show that, and they can't wait to give you 10-50% discount. You know, and some of them, you'll be surprised you show that. And I've been in shops and gone, oh, hello, mate, I was in the Navy, or I was in the Army. And you go, oh, where are you? And then, you got a conversation going, you can get an extra bit more discount. But, you know, there's a lot of people out there, a lot of us around there, you know, and it's amazing what you fall into. But sorry.
Yeah. No, I did some research because I work with a charity that helps veterans as well. And we worked out roughly using the statistics that were available on the basis as well that each year 20,000 people leave the military. There's about either directly affected, i.e. they've served in the military, or they are related to someone who served in the military or have a real strong support for the military. 22 million people in the
That's
UK.
right. I saw that statistic somewhere. I can't remember who it was, but it's a frightening number, isn't it? So, you know, and to answer your question, I in my last couple of weeks, I remember, and I'm hoping it's not like this, but I was called in. I had a meeting, you know, and I went into Faslane Naval Base, which is one of the most highly secure bases in Northern Europe, you know, and I had to go through the sections of security. I had all the passes anyway, you know, in a submariner. Went down to the resettlement office, as it was known, to hand my ID card in and be basically, you know, transitioned out of the Navy. It was unbelievably impersonal. I remember the guy it was a civilian. I'm not detracting it. You know, if you go to Faslane Naval Base, when I first joined there, it was all Navy there and Marines, and they did everything from admin to, you know, most of that's a lot of civilians have taken that role over, and it's lost its banter. You know, you could go into the writer or the scribe and go, "Oh, mate, you fucked my pay up," and you go, "Oh, sorry, you were at sea for that." Yeah, I know exactly why that is. Sorry about that. No, I'll see you down the pub later on. What I found is you then suddenly got was a woman would get a civilian on minimum wage, would get a book open and just go, "Well, the real say, you know, they've got no idea."
Yeah.
You know, and it just lost that, you know. And so
and it's interesting you say that, because there's a definite point where PC, political correctness, definite point in the military where we recognise that something is over the line because you've insulted someone's family member or something that they've got all over. But there's a lot that is said where other people listening from outside think,
"Oh my God, yeah."
But I mean, to us, it's hard, isn't it?
I've got some advice. Anyone listening to this, if you're going from the military into civilian street in a management position, you can't use the words "man up, mate," will you? You know, or things like that. Oh, take it seriously. So you've got to switch your. I've been at sea for 4 months head off. But I'll go back to what I was saying. You know, and I was met by this guy. Right, ID card, please. There you go. There's my ID. It was cut up in front of me. Right, you are reminded you have signed the Official Secrets Act. You must do that. You know, I had to re-sign the Official Secrets Act. Right, give me your passes. He took my passes, and I got this shitey temporary pass. to get me to another section of the base. And that was it. Fuck off. And off I went. I handed in that pass. I then had to do a quick induction video of leaving the forces, really impersonal. And then I remember driving out the base, the door shut behind me, and I looked behind, and that was it. It was a 24 hours, right there now. The transition was instant. That was it. I was out of the club, and some people find that hard to. There's nobody to go back and go, I'm a veteran, let's go and have a pint. That's it. You know, it's done. I remember going,
how did you feel it? How did you feel it?
I don't know. It was mixed emotions. On one hand, I was glad I'd done 22 years and I'd made a conscious decision and spoke to my family that was it. I'm still young enough at 40 to go and do something else. I had been offered promotion and to stay until I was 55. I turned that down, and I thought, I'm going to move on to the next chapter of my life. I went away a lot, and my wife never knew when I was coming back, couldn't speak to me, anything. And to be fair, it was time to move on. So I had always made that decision, and I'd had a few interviews coming, and I was quietly confident, but at the same time very scared about what was about to come.
Hey, do you enjoy sipping a good glass of wine? As you know, sipping too much wine can leave you feeling groggy in the mornings. For less than the price of a good bottle of wine, you can gain access to valuable business and life resources gained from my over 37 years in business and 15 years in the military. These world-class resources are designed to help you achieve the goals, dreams, and aspirations you deserve. So visit joelteams.com now to find out more. That's JOETEAMS.com to find out more.
And that was it. And I remember I was on my own. That's what I felt. So I was glad, but then I'd lost I still had friends in the Navy. You know, we go out for a pint and all that, but then they would bugger off and go away for months and come back. You know, so it was. I had to move on quickly, and you're gone, and then you've lost that camaraderie. You will, unless you're really lucky, you won't find again. And like-minded people, everybody knows who's paid what. And in Civvy Street, no one talks about pay. It's very secretive. You know, someone next to you might be doing the same job but get paid more or less. It's not talked about. You don't have I don't feel you have you don't always, but that camaraderie is slightly diluted, you know. And I've worked with some organisations that have been tremendous and great camaraderie. Everybody's in it. And I've worked with some organisations that have left that it's every man for a dog, step on your own grandmother to get higher. And it's you just, and that's alien, and that's taken a long time to get around.
And the being open and honest, we knew in the engineers, if you were Class 1 combat engineer, Class 1A trade, and you were a certain rank, you knew what you got paid. And if you were
wasn't even brought up.
Paratrain commando, and you get extra pay for it.
You get extra pay. Submariners get a bit of extra pay because we're so fantastic, you know.
Well, it's psychological warfare, isn't it? I mean, in the Submariner,
Yeah. To be honest, the pay is, I don't know anybody would want to do it if they didn't get paid anymore. It's like going at the SAS or SBS, you know, you are paid special forces pay because you are incentivized for going and doing that job, you know, very, very professional, you know, and you know, I've met guys in the special forces I've left, and you know, they take that ethos with them, and it's, you know, fucking hell, you know. But my advice is if you don't have any qualifications or you think you are unskilled, you've left with nothing. You can shoot someone at 100 meters. Brilliant. There's a few people I want to shoot. No.
Well, maybe that's another podcast now.
Yeah, that's a different one. No, I'd miss on a submariner. I don't shoot. You know, and ex-armed forces guys make tremendous project managers, health and safety guys. You know, and it's very, you know, the only letdown is when you're in armed forces as a project running a project. You don't get into budgets and stuff like that. So another piece of advice is in the resettlement, if you can get any project management courses that also do finance as well, learning how to run a budget, because someone will go, oh, you've got project management skills. Here's £1 million budget. Go and make sure this project is delivered. You know, so you're thrust into having to work with money. We don't get taught that in the armed forces because the Ministry of Defence go, that's what you're given, crack on.
Yeah.
So it's, unless you're very high up in the admiral stage, you don't tend to deal with budgets, and I think that's something to, if you're going to go down the project management route when you leave the forces, is try and get some finance training on running budgets. It's easier than you think, but there are pitfalls that I've learned through the hard way, because I didn't do any courses on finance.
Yeah.
Suddenly I was running projects.
So you were dropped out of the
door,
Navy, out the Navy at Faslane by a security guard who cut your card up and just didn't even take into account that represented over 22 years of your life.
Oh, right. Yeah. You got to think of a validatory certificate as well. And this is the funny thing, and this just shows you're just a number. You cannot take it personally when you leave the armed forces. Another Brian MacRitchie certainly slotted into me afterwards, and I was gone. The next generation were taking over, and you can't take it personally. If you do, then you'll find it difficult to deal with. But you can't take it personally. It's the armed forces. You move on and take that energy that you've had in the armed forces and funnel it into your next project. But it can be quite, is that it? It's a huge anticlimax. You've done 22 years. And you get, I think, on a validation ticket, you get a certificate that says, welcome, well done for your 22 years. And usually, most organizations will make a big deal of it. And they'll go, oh, Brian's leaving, let's dine him out. Let's get him dined or wined and, drunk. And then they'll try and get some high-ranking guy to come in and go, well done, McRitchie, put it in a nice silver flame, lots of handshakes. Sometimes that's missed. For me, I'll always remember my divisional officer at the time went, oh, Brian, I've got this bit of paper in the post for you. There you go. That was it. And I got a bit of paper. And the sad thing was I was probably a couple of weeks away, and a captain who was running, a Navy captain, so it's a different rank from the Army, he was running one of the organizations I was working in. He found out about this, and he was absolutely disgusted. And he went down and tore my divisional officer a new one and said, this guy has done 22 years in the Navy and you just give him a certificate like that. He was, and he went, bought a frame himself, put it in, and got a photograph of me, and it's,
well, that
was disappointing, I'll be honest.
Yeah, definitely. So after leaving, excuse me, you've done quite a few positions, and it's always swaying, unsurprisingly, really, towards the marine engineering world. You took up a few positions, and from what I know, a couple of them were for a few years, many a bit longer, and then now you're in a position where you're controlling stuff, aren't you?
Yeah, so I'm at almost like sort of director level in a company. I'm the head of operations for an oil company. But that's before that. When I left the Navy, it's really easy for a lot of Navy guys to get a position offshore in the oil industry because we're used to that environment. And I just went down the easy route, I'll be honest. I thought I'd use that for a year to transition into better things. I always wanted to come back and work shoreside, so I spent most of my time away. But I knew that to get some experience in the oil and gas industry, I couldn't just walk out the military with qualifications, because I'd made sure my resettlement transitioned those. I made sure my CV was in Civvy Street rather than, I was a CPO and did this and that. These acronyms don't mean anything. I served on a nuclear submarine doing this. Doesn't mean anything. So my CV was tailored. And I put a lot of work into that and spoke to people. So that it was, and it got noticed, I must admit, and it was easy for me to go into the offshore world. So I went offshore for a year with a company called Schlumberger, quite a big oil company. And that was good. That allowed me to get experience with the offshore world into a supervisory capacity and start moving forward. And then from there, I went into another oil company as a supervisor, and then into another one after that as into the management positions. And so I've done that. I started up my own business. I left another oil company and thought I can do this, and I did some consultancy work. So I've got my own consultancy business running in the background. It's kind of stopped at the moment because I took a position as a head of operations for another oil company, which I'm doing right now. And during that years, I did my that I did my degree in engineering and got a chartered engineering position, but I did my degree when I was in the Navy, part-time with the Open University. And the Open University are, I almost sound like a salesman here, they are the gurus of distance learning. A lot of distance learning companies will go, right, your exam, you've got to get that in by this time. I'm in Iraq. I'm in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
You're on a submarine. What does that mean? They're not interested. The Open University work with the armed forces a lot. And I did it with them for that reason, because I was going away to sea diving. And what they did is they did a really good thing where they gave the exam papers to some high-ranking officer in the thing and said, put that in the safe. On this date, he's to sit the exam. And that was really good. And they recognise that we are in a very unique, position. We're almost like spacemen. We go away and aren't seen for a number of months, come back, and we can't tell anybody what we did, except my wife. And no, she doesn't. No, not officially. No. So
he wasn't there. Oh, she was.
Shit. So everybody's wife. My wife's horrified some of the stuff. So you and they recognise that it ain't that easy, and you can't even do that if you're in a firefight in Afghanistan or something. You can't go, right, hold on, dirty Taliban, I've got to go and sit an exam, right, and back onto your SAT again. They recognise that there's no way sometimes that you can even take it on the day you're meant to, and so they work with you. Some guys have even had to wait a couple of months, come back off a patrol and do it then, and they recognise that, and it's been good. So I got my degree through the Open University. The Navy paid for it. They at the time. So,
go on, sorry. And so what?
Yeah, and then when I left, I got my chartered engineering, and then I did an MBA in business, because I recognised that I was going into these management positions and business positions later on, and I thought, I haven't got a business degree or anything like that, and I didn't do it because I want lots of letters after my name. I did it because I felt there was gaps in my knowledge, which I decided to do an MBA, and I did that through the Open University as well. Self-funded it, and did that, and I got that probably a couple of years ago, and that's helped me greatly. And I had project management courses as well, which I got in the Navy, just I was doing. Use that resettlement, get as much as you can out of your year's resettlement. I've seen numerous people that come out at the end of it and went, resettlement? I didn't do that. I didn't bother. That won't help you. I'll be honest. Maybe some people have been lucky to go into Civvy Street and get a job and they've been successful. And but I'd say your chances of getting employment quickly, what you want, it would increase if you just get as much as you can out of that year of resettlement. Use it. It's fantastic.
That's a great tip. And again, coming back to you're lucky, right? You left, you got the card cut up. Now, you just sailed into jobs, didn't you? And everything was put on your plate. So what sort of challenges did you have?
Yeah.
Like thinking about where's the next penny coming from? What am I going to do with the family?
Yeah, well, it's a good point. My wife was working at the time, obviously. Well, she still is. I don't know where that came from. She's working, so, for a while, there was all the what ifs, and it's quite a stressful time. We were lucky we had our own house. We'd bought a house years and years before. Some guys will be in married quarters. Suddenly that's taken away from them, So you've got to get your shit in one sort that year beforehand, even years and years before. If you think you're leaving on this date, a year before, start looking at where you're going to live. Honestly, I've seen so many people that leave it to the last minute, and suddenly there's a married quarter taken away from them. They've then got to go and find a house, rent, buy, whatever, And if you can buy a house or rent a house or get yourself in somewhere way before, so that the transition is easy, because that last year is going to be difficult, and the last thing you want to be doing is thinking about buying a house, what qualification, all that as well. It can be quite stressful, and there's a lot of what ifs go through your mind. So what I did when I left, and you don't want to be doing it when you're leaving, you want to be doing it a year before. 6 months before, I was sending out my CV to oil companies, because I wanted to come back up to Aberdeen, where I'm originally from, and start working in the oil and gas industry as an engineer. I wanted to do that. And for numerous reasons, so I look back and go, I could have done something else. But anyway, I chose the oil and gas industry, and it's been pretty good to me, I must admit. So I started getting CVs out to all these companies. And if you can, through friends, through Google, try and find, these companies that someone that you can send a CV to. And you're being cheeky, I know, but I've sent CVs to random people in oil companies, and they'd send me an email back going, "Oh, I got your CV. I'm not the person you should be sending to. I'll put it to our HR department." And you go, "Brilliant!" And that's you got to be a sneaky bastard, honestly. And also, there's companies recruiting all the time. You got to just apply for what you can, and just keep applying. And I must admit, because my CV was okay, I actually even got some feedback from an ex-Marine, emailed me back once and said, "Your CV sucks, mate. Good Marines, straight to the point." My advice is this, and that was worth its weight in gold. This guy took his time, saw an ex-armed forces guy, a veteran coming out, and his CV wasn't. He said, "I would do this. I would write this. Get rid of that and put this in there." And he said, "I'm not hiring at the moment, but I'll look out." Brilliant, And I rewrote my CV, and I to this day I've got a CV that's very similar to his advice. And that's the way to do it. Also, it depends on have 3 or 4 CVs. If you want to go down the project management route, make your CV look as though that's all you've ever done in the armed forces. I project managed this, I did this, I've got this qualification through resettlement, blah, blah, blah. If you're wanting to steer down the engineering route, put a little bit of project management, tailor your CV to the jobs you're going for.
That's
not one CV that fits all. That doesn't exist. So, just don't get them around the wrong way, and do that, and then apply. And I must admit, I got 4 or 5 interviews out of that, and I was taking interviews before I'd left the Navy, and that's where you want to be, because you'll get time off during your resettlement time. It's even written in the procedures that they have to give you time off to go do interviews, do courses, transition. So try and get your shit together a year before. Don't leave it to the last minute, or you're screwed. And so I was lucky. I didn't have a job, but I was falling into one, and Schlumberger took me on an interview process. And this is the other thing. Some companies have some interviews I've done, I've sat on a table for half an hour, and they've made a decision there and then. There you go. Yeah, you're in. And I'm like, what? Is that it? Some interviews have been 2 days long with a maths exam or an English exam. And you'll love this. And I even went on one with Schlumberger. Then they wanted a leadership exam the next day. And it will make armed forces people laugh out loud. 3 of us around a table. We had some paper, and they said, "Right, your team leader, make a statue that must do this, this, and this. That must balance a teacup on the top," or some crap like that. And I just, and if you look at the leadership courses that a lot of us armed forces guys have done, it's usually up on the Brecon Beacons in your comfort zone, living off the land for 3 days, and forced into that to get you in your comfort zone. And I was just laughing at that. So you'll get things like that, and you'll have a little giggle to yourself, going, "What the hell?" So that was easy, and then and during interviews, it's the usual eye contact and sell yourself. Sell your positives. I was in the armed forces. I will make this happen. And to be honest, Joe, as well, at the end of this, I am happy for anybody listening to this to have my email address, and I will help anybody for free with CV writing and anything they need. But
well, what we'll do is we'll certainly get that to them. In fact, you can say your email address now if you.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to give you a personal one because I've got my company.
No, not the personal one. Yeah, the company one. Yeah.
It's so I'm Brian.MacRitchie. That's BRIAN .McRitchie McRitchie BGMCconsulting.co.uk.
Fantastic, thank you. And I'll get the techie guys to who produce to do that some way.
Yeah, listen, it's free advice. When the resettlement comes, what you'll be surprised at is how many a-holes come out of the flipping woodwork. You'll get companies that will phone you or email you and say, "Right, mate, if you give me 400 quid, I'll make sure you get a good CV." Are you kidding? You know what I mean? It's phenomenal. People make money out of armed forces guys leaving for the wrong reasons.
I know.
You will get charged for 400 quid. I will guarantee you a job with a CV. Bollocks. Don't listen to it.
No,
There's plenty of guys out there that will give you free. I'll give you free advice. I don't want anybody getting screwed. And there's plenty. Look on Google for, you know, and I've seen the other end.
And that's and I've got a course on how to run a CV, and it's just the template, and it's dead easy.
Absolutely.
So so now you've talked about that, and you've touched on it anyway, quite a big way. So what's the secret of your success? And we had a giggle about this as well, because a lot of us military guys, ex-military, have imposter syndrome and think, success, what's that? So
we're crap at selling ourselves. Military guys are shit at selling themselves. They really are. And I was one of them. I remember my first ever interview. They had to plow the information out of me. And I was lucky because I had a guy that I think he had a friend who was in the military, and he could kind of see I was struggling a bit. And he was asking, yeah, but you've done that in the military. Yeah, but you did that. And, you know, or I would have sat there mute. You know, for example, I think one of the questions was, can you tell me a time when, you know, you were put in a difficult position and your leadership skills were used to you know, get you out of that? So, and I can't remember. It was something like that. And I went, I don't know, you know. Little did I know, I'd be doing it all the time, you know. And I went, oh, there was a time when, you know, we had a problem in the submarine, and you know, I couldn't get it out. I'd never been asked that question before as such. So the guy was quite good. So you could see the stony-faced CEO was sitting there, but the other guy was like, yeah, but surely in a submarine you've been in a difficult position and you've had to, through leadership, your guys, you know, take charge and get this thing working. And, you know, and I went, oh yeah, but I had so many numerous things in my head that I kind of just picked one at random, and it was crap. But I managed to get my way through, and he went, oh yeah, very good, yeah, that's what we're looking for, you know. And so it's just because you do it without thinking. When you're asked the question, sell yourself, you're like, you know, and try and sell yourself. The military are very good at, we did that as a team, we did this. When you go into Civvy Street, there's a lot more, I did this, I did that, you know. So you've got to say, I took charge of the situation and I got this, Joe Bloggs to do that, da-da-da-da-da.
So it's about, it's about
selling yourself.
Sell yourself and looking at what you've done. To lead people, because, you know, look, I've been in a firefight, or when I was in this situation, I got my team through.
And that's another thing. If you start talking about, I was in Afghanistan, I was in a firefight, and this, you can see their eyes glazing over because it's totally alien to them. Totally alien to them, and they're going, "Ah, yeah, right, you didn't do that," because it sounds like a movie. And we've all been in a situation where you go and watch Crimson Tide, that American film about a tried submarine. Some of the things that's happened in that, I've been there, you know. It's you know, Black Hawk Down. Some guys that are watching this have been in firefights like that, and can look at this crap American film, I know, and go, do you know what? Yeah, I've been there. I've watched my friend, you know, die next to me, or this, you know. Totally alien. So you've got to kind of tailor it and just say, yeah, I've been in a situation. We were in a situation in Afghanistan when this happened. So I said, shut up, stop. We stepped back, we assessed the situation, we talked about it, and then we moved forward with a plan.
Exactly.
You do that in Civvy Street all the time, you know. We move a piece of oil industry equipment in our backyard from A to B. We don't just crack on and do it. You know, the guys, we instill that, we stop about it, we walk the job, we come up with a plan, and we move it safely. You know, things like that.
It's like when
but it's, you know.
Yeah, it's like when I've seen a road traffic incident and everyone's running around like headless chickens, and I just pulled over. I said, right, stop.
You're right.
You do that. Phone the police, ambulance.
Yeah.
And then you just
and I've been there, and you'll see that. Do you know? It's amazing how many times you see it on the news. Some things happened in Civvy Street. Something like, I don't know, a road traffic accident. Even those guys on that subway in France where there was a terrorist on there. It's always an armed forces guy or an ex-police officer or something that's gone, I'll take charge of this situation, you know, and just automatically gone and done it. You know, someone would say, you silly bugger, I would have got involved in that. And then, you know, everybody's in the background filming, you know, and you just want to take that phone and ram it somewhere. But, you know, it's quite surprising. You just automatically go, oh, someone's in trouble. I'll go and take charge of that. I've done that myself. You know, I've done CPR on a person because they had a heart attack, you know, and that is, I didn't go, oh, this person was in disgrace, I'm sitting there CPR, you know, and that, I just automatically went and did it. And that's a huge selling point.
Yeah, exactly. So we're coming to the end. I mean, we could talk for days, I would imagine, easily. So what I would like to know, right, is staying on the theme of success and failure, because failure is the anti-success. How do you deal with failure? Because you've had a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And listen, I've been rejected for promotions. I've been rejected for, I know, woe is me, rejected for jobs. I've run projects in the millions, and had bollockings because it's not gone well, you know.
Yeah.
But you've got to remember, you don't fail personally. It's usually you fail because the team's failed. You know, you're not running the whole project yourself. You are running a team that are running the project with you, if you know what I mean. It's I go back to a firefight in Afghanistan or a submarine problem. You don't deal with a fire or a firefight yourself. You as a team are dealing with it. So you've got to kind of not take it personally. You got to have thick skin. But to deal with failure, yeah, I took it personally on a number of occasions, and I dwell on things sometimes. But I've managed to go, you know what? What's the worst that happens? Nothing that happens in Civvy unless someone's life is in danger, can be anywhere as bad as being in a firefight in Afghanistan, being on a submarine and some problem happens that is very life-threatening. You know, unless you're offshore and something happens, Piper Alpha in Aberdeenshire, for example, when that happened, you know, and unless you're in an extreme situation like that, you know, it's not the end of the world. You've got to kind of learn from it, and it's that you've got to go back to your military thing and go, right, team, I got a right bollocking from the boss, you know. Let's have a look at our lessons learned. What could we have done better? And just try and analyze what went wrong. And you'll find most of the time you've either not been helped by those above, or your team have not gelled together in delivering something. And sometimes as a leader, you've got to kind of instill that in there. Use that military background that you had to instill a bit of flipping, you know, confidence in your team and explain things. I've been at project management meetings where it's like, all right, we've got to get this done, you know, and then off you go and you go, wow, I've got no idea what this guy's on about. And if you're running a project or something, it's give everybody, you know, objectives. You're doing that, you're doing that, you're doing that, you're doing that, you know.
Yeah.
And timelines. You know, in a week, let's catch up and do this. You know, see where we are. You know, proper project plan, proper schedule. You know, and yeah, and you know, at the end, when you fail, because everybody will fail, it will happen. You got to look at it and look at the lessons. What did we fuck up on? What lessons learned can we take from that? Just learn from your lessons. We used to do it all the time in a submarine. If there was an effort, learn from your lessons. And you leave the military and forget that, but bring it back, honestly.
Thank you for that. So now you've been on Civvy Street for a while, and you've accepted now that you're civilian, although although at times there's always a comparison, isn't there? What we would have done in the military differs from this, because you can take the person out of the military, you can't take the military out of the person, whether that's Navy, Army, and the Force. So as your network grows, how important is it to have a good social and business network for your success?
I think it's very important, and it's not about, you know, you'll be surprised. You don't actually have to do much work in that. It actually falls on your lap. When I worked for Schlumberger, as soon as I left the Navy, suddenly I had a network of civilians that I never had before, and I still speak to a lot of them today. So you keep that in your back pocket. If I fall on hard times, and I can't get a job, I'll be contacting some of these guys that I've managed to, you know, that network over the last 10 years I've been at the military. And I reckon if I phoned, you know, all of them, some of them have gone higher up, you could get a job out of them. So it's important to keep those friendships going and those ties going, and just have a wee chat every now and then. And I've done that. It's also in the business side as well. So, for example, at the moment, if I've got a problem we need to solve engineering-wise at our facility I work at just now, and we've got no idea how to fix it, I've got a network of guys that I could maybe go to and go, hey, can you give us a hand here? Or, you know, yeah, if you pay us this, you know. But, you know, it's important to have those networks, especially, you know, if you're developing business, you know, the next thing. So, you know, from a sales point, if you go into sales, if you leave the military and go into sales, that network's far more important, because you can get work out of it for your company. You know, I ran my own little consultancy firm for a while. That didn't just, you know, I didn't start from scratch. I had a lot of network of people that knew me, that knew, hopefully, that I was a professional. And I had work come to me quite quickly just through, oh, Brian can do that. Oh, he'll do that. He's just started a company, you know. And I got quite a bit of work in my first year. And I was a little bit worried. I thought, holy shit, I can't keep up with this as a one-man band. I might have to think about employing someone. But then I kind of went backwards and I ended up going back to another job. But my point being is if you have that network, it will follow you through your career, and you can go back and speak to people. I speak to people from all the companies I've ever worked with, you know, certain people that I'm still in contact with, and they've come higher up as I have. So their influence is higher. So if you want to try and get some money, some business going in the current company I'm in, you can go to these people and go, you know, oh, I hear you're looking for this. Do you want? We can do that, you know, and keep going. And I speak to a lot of I've got guys still serving in the Navy at the moment, and you know, it's great to have a catch up with them. I was down in Edinburgh a few weeks ago, catching up with a couple of guys I haven't seen for a while, and you just instantly switch back into I'm a military guy, and how's Jenkins? Oh, he's a knob, isn't he? Yeah, and it's great. You know, is he still a submariner? He's got to that rank. Who the hell promoted him? You know, back to banter again. It's fantastic, and you need that. I think you need that. You can't have the same amount of banter in industry as you can in the military, or you'll offend someone. Yeah, you've got to be careful.
And I mean, I was fortunate when I left because I became a financial advisor and went through a whole lot of qualifications, which I still do today. And so I learned about the importance of money, how it works, what investments are, retirement strategies, inheritance tax, all of that. What sort of training did you get when you left, and how important is it, do you think, that it is for guys coming out of the military to understand what's available and how stuff works monetary wise?
I got zero, nothing, and I'll be honest. I think that's maybe a failing. I'm not sure if I can't speak. I have not, you know, I don't know what courses are available now or what's given to you. But you've got to remember, especially for myself, I did 22 years in the Navy. So all of a sudden, the Ministry of Defence, lovely people, the government put some money into my bank account, a pension, a lump sum. Boom, there you go, and I get monthly payments. Right? Thank you very much. Nobody tells you what to do with that. I'm not saying that you know you need to be mollycoddled through, but you know that money, a lot of people use it to get maybe their first house, or some people do it to pay off their house, or it's to plan your future. You know, some people have banked it, have been very successful and managed to, you know, pay a mortgage off with it or things like that. Or some people have just taken that money, banked it, and gone, well, that's great, I'll buy a new car with it or something. And some people have just blown the lot on booze and fags and women. I wish I'd done. No. So, you know what I mean? So there's not really any financial advice when you're leaving the Navy on what to do with that pension, what it's for. And I think that would be good, because there's some guys probably leave and I don't know. I'm you know, you take responsibility for your own life. If you've got a family, then I would like to think you use that money wisely. But some people don't. And I've had I've had guys leave, blow the lot in a new Merc or something, you know, and you're going, oh my God. And there's maybe people listening going, what's wrong with that? That's fine if you're a young, free, single, and you know you have no intention of settling down. That's fine, yeah, crack on. But you know, there's no financial advice. Also, a lot of guys, and I've said it, you come to your last year, you've got to try and get courses in. Military guys make good project managers, but we've never touched finance before. And part of being a project manager, you could, you know, I could have gone into the military and been given a £2 million, £3 million project to go and project manage. I've never touched money of that enormity before, you know. And any project management course you do, like Prince 2, 8, whatever, it teaches you how to project manage, expecting that you know how to work finances and stuff. It doesn't go big into finance. So I think that's something you've got to be careful. If your intention is to leave the military and go into a sort of project management or management route, I would try and bolster in your resettlement on, you know, something on financial advice, financial, you know, finances, margins, cost of doing business, you know, margins, you know, what's your you know, EBITDA, things like that. These are words that I don't know what that means, you know. And it's huge. You know, you want your earnings before income tax and depreciation to be as much as possible. That's the factor, the measure of a business. You know.
Yeah, and I've recognised that when I work.
Didn't know any of that.
Yeah, when I work with guys coming out of the military, that the financial education isn't there. That's why I love doing what I do.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think it would be a good teaching, because nobody knows what EBITDA means. Cost of poor quality, cost of doing business. Should I say? I don't know. Cost of poor quality. And margins and markups and all that, all different things, but they all come into project management. And you can any military guy could project manage a project to the nth degree, but they've got a big number of money, and that's the thing that's measured. If you don't meet the budget on time, it's a huge deal. And some companies will just go, "You're the project manager, crack on, speak to me back in 6 months when it's delivered under budget." But some want to, you might have to go to finance meetings every week and spell out on a graph, here's the forecast of what I'm going to spend, here's what I've actually spent, and you've got to make sure it balances out. So I wouldn't have known how to do that when I left the military, no idea whatsoever. So I've had to learn the hard way and through courses every now and then. So that's a big advice, I think. Okay,
thank you. And we're just a couple more areas. You've already touched on how transferable you think the skills are, so it's definitely a thumbs up on that, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And finally, with regards to mentoring and coaching, getting yourself a good mentor or coach on financial skills, how to conduct yourself, what sort of stuff you need, how important is it for you to get a good coach or mentor?
I think it's invaluable. You'll be lucky if you might leave the armed forces and go into your first job, and you might be lucky that they do a mentor scheme. So they might say, look, you've got a training schedule for 6 months because you've just joined. This is your mentor. And I had that at Schlumberger. They were very good. So I'm going to close my blind. I look like it's actually sunny up in Aberdeen for once. We don't see that big ball of fire up there so often. But yeah, I had that. I had a mentor, and they helped me, took me through, and that was very good actually. Some companies you join, you're on your own, crack on. Well, we employed you to do that. Just go and do it. And I've been in companies like that, and that's dire. I personally, if I have new people joining or someone who wants to be promoted, I'll volunteer and be a mentor. I'll say, right, listen, we'll go through this journey together, and I'll help you along the pitfalls, So it's important that you have someone that can help you through it. Or what you'll do is you'll just go, do you know what? I'll give this a year and I'll sod off, and you'll just go somewhere else, and they've lost a good person, So
yeah, mentoring and coaching is great, and I really believe in it as well. Which is why that we do lots of stuff in that area. So it's great. So thank you. Yeah. And finally, the Columbo question, right? Oof. Just one more thing. What is the one top tip that you will give to someone who has left the military and maybe is either struggling or doing well and wants to do even better, or someone who's thinking about getting out of the military, and that tip will help them achieve the success that they want?
It sounds like a get out clause, but use your skills that you've got as a focused, laser beam focused kind of guy. I think a lot of guys don't realize what skills they actually have. And it sounds easy for me to say that. And there'll be guys here that are maybe struggling, going, "Oh, very good, yeah, but it's not helped me." You have got skills that are sellable. Military guys, and it's getting that point across in selling yourself. It's really difficult to sell yourself. I am determined. I will always get this done. I've been in horrible situations, and I can deal with stress and problems quickly and efficiently. And it's just selling yourself. Get that on a CV as well, and do what I did. You don't have to apply for jobs that are going. Don't just go, "Oh, there's a job, I'll apply for that. There's a job, I'll apply for that." Be a sneaky bastard. Be the SAS or SBS and be sneaky. Send CVs to oil companies, and if you can find a name, just send it to them, and you'll be surprised how many go, "Oh, sorry, mate, you've sent the wrong person. I'll send that to HR." And you'll be surprised. And suddenly you'll get a call from HR going, "Oh, hello, we're interested in this." Yeah. Or you might be lucky. It might hit the path like that Marine sergeant, colour sergeant, I think he was. He picked up my CV and gave me some advice, And I'm here if anybody is struggling. as I said on my email address I've given out, I'm happy to give advice, free advice, and to help people along the way. Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Brian. Thanks very much. And the fact is that if it's not an oil company, it can be any company, because you never.
Yeah, I'm just using the oil industry,
Yeah.
but oh my God, there's so many different.
Yeah. Because you never know, you might send it to someone and they don't even know they're employing, and then all of a sudden they think, oh yeah, well we could, or we're having problems in that.
Yeah. Or you might send it to somebody and they might go, oh, I know a friend who might use it for someone, and bang it on. And I've had that happen before as well. It's you never know, and you'll all have civilian friends, I'm sure, somewhere. One of them must know someone who's recruiting, or must know something, And the other thing as well is a lot of civilian guys might grow up in a town and never leave that town, and so and it's difficult to say that, but if you're willing to travel, you have to sometimes travel where the jobs are, and I know that's easy to say, but military guys are used to traveling. Let's be honest, and I know you want to settle down and get away from the chaos that's sometimes ensued before, but if you can travel where the work is as well, that helps. We've got a lot of guys coming up to Aberdeen who aren't from Aberdeen, to get oil industry work, So
Fabulous. Well, have briefcase, will travel. Well,
yeah.
Brian, thank you so much for your time today. It's been really enjoyable. Lots of great tips there. Take it easy. Thank you.
Take it easy.
Thank you.
JoeTeams.com is a resource I have created to fulfill my mission to help 1 million veterans and business entrepreneurs like you achieve the goals, dreams, and aspirations they deserve. JoeTeams.com is jam-packed full of valuable resources specifically designed to help you on your journey to success. Visit JoeTeams.com now to find out how you can join and start your journey to success immediately. That's JoeTeams.com, JoeTeams, JoeTeams.com. And until we meet again, have a brilliant day.